The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for more people to be able to join us, so please bear with us. Thank you. Okay, so I think the majority of people have joined us now, so good morning, good afternoon, everyone again. My name is Stacey Roberts, and I am the PD Manager for IPLS, and this morning we're going to be taken through the iPrimary Early Years curriculum by Kevin Hyatt, who is our first presenter, and then our second presenter is Crispin Evans, who has written the professional development for early years for us, and he will take us through what you can expect from the professional development. If you have any questions, please do pop them in the questions box, and we will get to them at the very end of the webinar. We also have Christian on hand who, if you're having any kind of technical difficulties, you can't hear, he will be able to help you. And yeah, so let's get started. Cool. Over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Stacey, and thanks everyone for signing in today. We're going to talk about the new iPrimary Early Years curriculum with a particular focus on the professional development, and we're lucky to have Crispin with us today, who's one of our professional development experts as well. So to start off with, it would help if I could actually work slides. There we go. Okay, so we'll be having a look at the iProgress proposition, of which our reception content is a key part. Sadly, a very brief slide on me. We'll also be talking about the curriculum, the teaching and learning support, and as I mentioned, the professional development. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end. Okay, so first up, the least interesting slide. I'm always told I have to include one of these. So that's me on the right. My name's Kevin Hyatt. I'm currently a senior publisher for Pearson EdXL. My previous experience has been teaching English abroad, as a primary school teacher and deputy head, and I've worked at educational charities and in educational consultancy and publishing for a few years now. Okay, on to the more interesting stuff. So first up, just a very quick word about iProgress. So iProgress with Pearson EdXL is attempt, I think we've succeeded, to deliver a consistent learning journey for students, for teachers, for schools from ages 3 all the way up to ages 19. Previously, we published for international GCSE and A-level, but 2 years ago we introduced primary and lower secondary, and now we're also adding on early years, which is 2 additional years of content at the bottom. And the whole iProgress journey provides more than just curricula. It also provides support resources, tools and services, professional development, and print and online teaching materials as well. And a particular focus on the early years. Okay, so at the moment we have iPrimary, and that's support for 6 years of teaching in English, maths, science and computing. We're adding in 2 years of pre-primary content, that's reception or kindergarten, whatever you call it, or nursery, and pre-K. So there'll be 8 years of content for our primary journey there. And the new curricula cover maths, designed to inspire mathematical curiosity and resilience, introducing key mathematical concepts, and trying to embed growth mindset in learners and teachers. Our English curriculum encourages early language development and exploration. And the third strand is the world around us. This combines some early science, so developing early research and questioning skills, and encourages social and creative development in students as well. All of the phases encourage the development of transferable skills through the use of active learning techniques. A close look at what the curricula look like. So this is an example from one year and one section of the maths curriculum. The curricula themselves cover all of the prerequisites for students moving into full-time academic education and beginning our iPrimary programme. So the idea is that after 2 years of learning, they're at the correct point to start year one. All of the curricula contain clear, exemplified learning objectives, which help support you in understanding the level children should be working at by the end of that year, and how the learning progresses over time. Over the 2 years, each of the curricula forms a clear learning ladder. And then, as well as the curricula I mentioned, we provide lots of teaching and learning support as well. So as part of the programme, all of this is provided for free. Well, as part of it, not free. We provide schemes of work. So this is topic-based planning. You might call it medium-term planning, covering the 2 years, grouping together complementary objectives within a curricula into themed topics and suggesting activities and resources. You might wish to create your own planning from this, or use it as a loose framework for existing courses as well. It's entirely up to you. We give you the flexibility to do that, but it's there to provide the support if you want it. The next level of support we provide is the lesson planning. So we provide detailed lesson by lesson planning for each curriculum for each year, including suggestions of activities suitable for a range of school settings and levels of support. There's more activities and more ideas and more suggestions in there than you could need, and there's clear guidance about which ones are and aren't appropriate for each activity. The lesson planning is such that it's there for every single day of every single curricula. And again, you can adapt it, you can change it to work more closely with your setting, or you can ignore it completely if there's a particular topic you don't like. You've got the complete flexibility to use it however you want. The third piece of support I want to briefly talk about are the progress tests. These are end of topic tests for each curriculum. So they come about every half term, every 5 weeks in each curriculum. They're designed to check understanding and progress through a supportive, discussion-based approach to assessment based around information-rich illustrations. There's detailed guidance and detailed mark schemes for the teacher, helping you to interpret children's answers and helping you to deliver these tests as well. I wouldn't want a formal, lengthy, written-based test for children of this age, and I think most practitioners used to early years wouldn't either. The idea behind these assessments is the child won't actually know they're sitting an assessment. As far as they're concerned, it's a discussion with the teacher about a lovely picture, and it's the guidance for the teacher that helps the interpretation there. And then the final strand is professional development. So we provide face-to-face, although in the current climate, we're looking at other solutions, and online support to help upskill teachers and give them the confidence to fully engage with the new curricula and what for some might be a new way of teaching and learning as well. As a quick snapshot or summary here, these are all of the things that the iPrimary reception course includes. So we've got those complete year-by-year curricula and the learning objectives we spoke about, the complete schemes of work, the lesson planning, the progress tests, which we update and add to every year, for professional development, ongoing support via webinar, which tends to be very responsive. So schools will contact us, local Pearson teams will contact us and say there's a particular need for webinar on a particular theme or in a particular area, and we'll try and find the right people to deliver that and organise it at a time that's convenient to you. And then we also map to award-winning Pearson courseware. So the mapping that's included enables use for the additional textbooks or workbooks if you want to, but there's no requirement to do so. With that, very quick whistle-stop tour of iPrimary reception. I'm going to pass over to Crispin now, who's going to talk in more depth about professional development.
Right, so I'll just unmute myself and make sure that you can see the screens that you need to. So I'm just going to make sure I've got my slideshow showing, and right, here we go. Now it's the first time I've used this particular piece of software, so do forgive me if there's a few stumbles to start with, but let's start in the same way as Kevin did by introducing myself. I'm Crispin Evans. I am a former primary school teacher, education advisor and senior lecturer in education, and I've worked as a consultant writing professional development for the last about 5 or 6 years. I pulled out this picture of myself because I currently have what we are calling a lockdown haircut, which means I've got hair everywhere. So I found one where I'm looking a little smarter, and I'm lucky enough to be based in the very bottom corner, southwest corner of the UK, as you can see on that little map there, and even luckier to have that view from my office window. So that's the view I'm looking out on at the moment, although it is a bit grey and cloudy here. So let's crack on to look at the early years professional development that Kevin highlighted for us as part of the package. To ensure that you get the most out of your early years resources, there's a professional development module that helps you introduce it really smoothly, and I think that's essential when you bring any new resource into a school, and the professional development session, as we see it, will help staff understand those key pedagogies and the ethos which support the iPrimary early years resources, but it'll also help them investigate the structure and progression within those resources and work with some of the sample lesson plans that Kevin spoke about in all of those curriculum areas, the English, maths and the world around us. And also to discuss how best to organise in terms of classroom organisation and best practice in the early years. I've tried to summarise it as being the session outcomes being the 3 C's. So the first C is that it should give your the staff who attend confidence. So not only confidence in the early years curriculum, that they feel confident that the work there is suitable for their children and that they can use it in their school, but also the confidence to apply it to their teaching, and the confidence to use it the different range of activities with their students. Beyond confidence, it's also important that the teachers have consistency. So one of the outcomes for the professional development is to ensure that there is consistency across your classes and year groups. By giving the staff the professional development, we can make sure that there is a consistency of knowledge for all staff, that everyone has the same information to start with, and that everyone understands how to use the early years resources, so we get a consistency of planning and assessment, so you can be sure that whichever class your child has been in, and when they move from one class to the next, that there will be a consistency supporting their education. And then finally, the professional development will help your teachers have control over their classroom management, over the activities that their students complete, and also over assessment, so that they know when their students are ready to move on, or when they need to intervene and give extra support. So that's the idea of the professional development, that it will give all the staff in the school confidence in the resource, provide a consistency across all staff and across all classrooms, and help the teachers have real control over how they're teaching and what they're doing within their classroom. Okay, so what does the PD content look like? What are you actually going to cover? Well, as part of the PD content, we ask teachers to look at the key priorities in the early years, and we do this via a Diamond 9 activity, which uses lots of statements about the early years, and we find which ones the teachers agree with more. So actually, as a little activity for you to do now, we are going to ask you to look at these 3 statements about best practice in the early years and to vote for which you agree with the most. So your 3 statements are: number 1, young students are not able to undertake extended learning activities. Number 2, young students need lots of opportunities to practice and repeat activities. And number 3, part of the role of early years education is to make students school ready. A poll should pop up on your screen in the next few seconds, and I'd like you to vote for which of these statements you most agree with. So which one do you most agree with out of these? And we'll see how people are thinking and feeling this morning. So a poll should open, and hopefully I can click on my audience view and see what happens. So select the one that you most agree with. We'll give you 30 seconds to do that. For those of you who are watching as a group, have a quick discussion and decide which one as a group you agree with the most, and then get somebody to click on the statement number 1, 2, or 3. So 1, young students are not able to undertake extended learning activities. Number 2, young students need lots of opportunities to practice and repeat activities. And number 3, part of the role of early years education is to make students school ready. Vote for the one that you most agree with. Okay, that should have given everyone enough time. If you'd like to close the poll now, Christian, and we'll see if we can get some results. Here we go. So we can see that about 10% of us agree that young students are not able to undertake extended learning activities. Just over 20% agree with number 3, part of the role of early years is to make students school ready. And we've got about 60%, just over 60% on number 2, students need lots of opportunities to practice and repeat activities. Thank you very much for taking part in that. None of the statements are wrong. They all do have some bearing on early years and what we do in early years best practice. It's interesting that there seems to be a feeling that statement 2, young students need lots of opportunities to practice and repeat activities, is the one that you agree with most strongly as a group. And that's actually really important, because the part of the point of using the early years resources is that they give you way more activities than you could actually cover if you with your class anyway. So it gives you the opportunity to really pick and choose the ones that are most suitable for your students, and to be able to practice and repeat activities as often as you can. So as I say, part of the professional development around, around the early years resources is not just about the resource itself, but also about the best practice in early years. So we look at that general pedagogical practice and how best to work with these resources in your class. As well as looking at pedagogy of the early years, the professional development module also investigates the contents of the units of work for each of the curriculum areas. So you can really get to grips with how the curriculum and the support materials are structured and how you might use them in your class. So for example, in the section focusing on English, and let me just advance my slide. In the section focused on the English curriculum, we investigate a unit of work on phonics. We try syllable clapping, letter learning, sound revisions, and phonic blending, all within the professional development session. We not only look at the activities in the lesson plans, but we also look at how schools could then adapt and extend the activities to suit their students and their resources. So let's give you a quick phonics activity to do. I'll make it a little more suited to adults rather than to 4-year-olds, so I won't have you clapping your names out in syllables at the moment, although I would do on the face-to-face professional development. What I'd like you to do as a little test to see how awake your brains are this morning or this afternoon is to look at those 6 phonemes I have there. I've got SATPIN, so the phonemes are S, A, T, P, I, N. So we're looking at the sounds those letters make. My challenge to you is, within a minute, what is the longest word you can think of that uses those phonemes? So you can use them as many times as you want in the word, but you can only use them as pure sounds. So you can only use them as the sounds S, A, T, P, I, N. You can't have the A making an A sound or the I making an I sound. So for example, you could have the word pin, P, I, N, pin, but you couldn't have the word pint because that's P, I, N, T. Okay, I hope everyone understands that task. So you have got 1 minute. Hopefully you've got somebody near you can chat with. If not, you're going to have to rack your own brains. What is the longest word that you can come up with the letters or the sounds at? And if you write them, I think if you write them in the chat window and make them to everybody, to all entire audience, then we can see them. If not, use the question window if you haven't got a chat window there and type them in there. So I can see Carol has come up with satin straight away. Lovely. Satin's a great one, Carol. Or somebody put up satisfaction, which wouldn't work with an F. And paints, I can see P-A-I and stain make an AI sound. So it's not a pure sound, stain, rather than it would be stain. Pants, thank you very much, whoever put pants up for me. Somebody put up pinnacle. I don't quite know where they got the L from. We got some great ones coming through. We've got more pants. Very good, Carmen. We've got assassin, which just came through, which is longest one I've seen so far. We'll give you another 30 seconds to come through with these. There are lots of great suggestions people have got here. Snap, very good, Kingsley, come through. Spit. We're quite obsessed with pants this morning. I've seen several pairs of pants going through. Spin, stan. A great activity to do with some of your slightly older children is to give them these 6 letters and see if they can write a story with just using those 6 sounds. It is possible. You do get quite a lot of stories about Santa's satin pants, but it's worth trying. Fantastic. There are lots and lots of really good words coming through, and some of you have really got the idea of using the phonemes. That's fantastic. Okay, we'll put a hold on there. Wonderful to see so many ones coming through. I think the longest one I saw going through was assassin. So whoever put assassin up as their word should give themselves a healthy pat on the back. The longest one I could come up with was assistance. Oh, somebody just came through. I can't see whose name it is there, with assistant. And of course, because you've got that spare S, you can change it to assistance. Well done, those people who put up those words. You're going to be thinking about that all day now. I think when I was doing this as a practice run, I came up with 67 different words, but I'm sure you can you can beat that in the time you've got. So as part of the look into English sessions, we do a lot of work on phonics and phonemes, and you can obviously see how much fun it is to get started. So we try and do that within the face-to-face, as well as investigating the English curriculum within the professional development. We also look at examples from the mathematics curriculum and the world around us curriculum that covers well-being, social development, keeping healthy, physical activity, creative arts, early science and social studies. And the delegates within the PD get the opportunity to study the progression, lesson plans and activities from both these areas. And again, as they did with the English curriculum, get a chance to try some of the activities. So who doesn't want to make a lollipop emotions puppet as part of their work for the world around us? The work with the 3 different curriculum areas covered in the professional development really helps teachers understand the structure and progression within those early years resources, as well as giving them the experience, of what the day-to-day delivery of the iPrimary early years curriculum looks like. The final part of the PD module looks at the assessment that Kevin was talking about, the assessment within the early years resources. And assessment within the early years resources is focused on both the formative and summative type of assessments. So formative assessments are those ongoing assessments which you do within the lessons at the end and at the end of a lesson to inform you of the next steps for both teaching and learning. But we also look at summative assessments, those that summarize what a student can do at a given point, so at the end of a topic perhaps, and that helps the teachers with forming records of achievement and also to identify any gaps in a student's learning before they move on. And both of these types of assessment are really important in ensuring that no student gets left behind and that all are achieving their best potential. So in the PD module, we'll look at assessments for English, maths and the world around us to help teachers to really understand what they should be looking for in terms of assessment and what key questions to ask. And the important thing is that those what to look for and key questions are also highlighted in the actual early years resources. So there you have it, a summary of the early years professional development. It's set up as a fun and engaging session, and it looks at the pedagogy, the curriculum, the teaching, the learning and the assessment all in a half-day module, or as Kevin said earlier, with the current restrictions on travel and face-to-face meetings, then they're also looking at ways of delivering that online as well. And so it's ideal for schools who are introducing the iPrimary early years curriculum into their school and then give them a great start in delivering the fantastic learning experiences contained within. So thank you for listening to my bit. I'm going to now hand back, I think it's going to go back to Stacey so we can deal with any questions or any queries that anyone's got. So I think it's you I'm handing back to, Stacey.
Yes. Hi everyone again. So we've got some few questions popping up. If anyone else has any questions, please do pop them in the questions box and we will answer them. So I think I've got a few for Kevin actually first. So Kevin, if you're still there, hi. We have one around, so textbooks. What are some of the supporting textbooks? And is there any recommended texts for early years? Kevin, are you still there?
I am, sorry, I was just, yep, hi. Okay, so for maths, we recommend Power Maths Reception. So there's an excellent digital front of class package, which also accompanies learning journals for pupils, which is 1 per term. And then we recommend as a reading scheme to work alongside the whole curricula, we recommend the Bug Club reception phases and Bug Club phonics. And for the teaching of English and the teaching of the world around us, we are bringing out pupil workbooks to be published in, I believe, May next year, very early May.
Cool, thank you very much. Whilst I've got you.
Also, add to that, Stacey, sorry, well,
No, of
I
course.
hope you don't mind me cutting in, but of course, if in terms of the professional development, if we were working with a school who was using something like Bug Club, then we would be able to show them at which points during the curriculum it would be perfect to fit those sorts of texts, reading books, the phonic lessons, and all those sorts of activities that were within Bug Club alongside the other resources in iPrimary.
Yep, fantastic. Okay. So I think this is a kind of a general question. What is the age group recommended for reception? The question
Okay,
is either Kevin or Crispin, I suppose.
Well, I mean, in this case, we base it around the ages in the UK school system. So you'd start primary age, so reception would be ages 3 and 4 and 4 and 5, and in year 1 you're 5 and 6. But all around the world there's obviously different ages children start at and different phases, so it's fine to shift the course or adapt it to your setting, but we wrote it with ages 3 to 5 in mind.
Cool, thank you. And when will the iPrimary early years curriculum be launched?
This month. So everything is ready. It just needs to be on our platform. So there's been a few very dull technical issues involving, for obvious reasons, a sudden huge increase in people accessing things digitally. So there's just been a bit of platform work to support that. But all of the iPrimary curriculum will be up by the end of the month.
Cool, fantastic. So that also answers the question that they can start using it from September this year.
Yes. Yep.
Fantastic. And then I have a question around specifically around the world around us. Can you please talk a little bit more about this subject and the main content of this subject?
Yes, let me just find, I thought I'd muted, sorry. Okay, so the world around us is the third strand of our reception curricula, and it combines early science. So early science is largely based around exploring and discovering the world. So it encourages children to question, explore, and interact with the immediate locality, with the world around us, to explore the ideas of cause and effect. And there's also elements of social development in there as well. So there's sections about interactions with friends, interactions with peers, recognizing your own feelings and how to deal with them. Then there's also creative development in there as well. So again, exploring different mediums, interacting with them, using them to represent the world around you. Yeah, so there you go.
Cool, thank you. A few questions around resourcing again still. Can it be used, so can the iPrimary curriculum be used with existing resources the school might have if they're using a different reading scheme or anything
Yes,
else?
absolutely. So the reading scheme, as with all reading schemes tend to sit alongside formal teaching rather than being part of the lesson. So if you have a different reading scheme, it's fine to carry on using it.
I think that's something we also highlight within the professional development, that one of the great advantages of the early years resource is that you can have it as an editable lesson plans or editable activity plans. So if you're working on a particular area, say phonics, and you think, well, actually, I've got a really good resource that we already use, you can actually match that in with the iPrimary early years curriculum resources, so you actually are expanding the resource you've got and making it most suitable for your students. So yes, don't chuck out anything you already have. It can work alongside the early years resources, and then you'd be using the early years resources to ensure that you had really good progression through your years, so you fit the activities in where they suit the progression.
Cool, thank you. And then I think we have just a few kind of generic kind of questions that Crispin, you might be able to answer.
I'll have a go.
Do you believe in learning through play,
Absolutely.
and why?
In terms of yes, one word answer, yes. Yeah, absolutely. But there is a difference between completely free play and structured play, where teachers have set out a range of activities that they allow children to explore. So, for example, if I was doing work on the phonics as we were, and we were looking at those 6 key phonemes, I would, alongside all the other games and toys, I would make sure that my home play area had lots of things that begin with s and t and p and in it, so I can actually use those as part of the ongoing learning process. But absolutely, children learn better when they're well engaged, and children are well engaged when they're playing with things.
Cool, thank you. And then a follow-up to that is, do you think it is important to introduce books in kindergarten?
Yes, well, I think before you start with books, I think that actually it's the storytelling and the listening to stories and repeating stories. So the books you might be using might just be big picture books with a teacher saying, oh, I wonder what's happening here, what might be happening in this story, what might happen next. So from that point of actually helping children understand how stories work, and that you know, sounds build words, words build sentences, sentences build stories, then that's really important for children to learn. And we find that children who struggle to read as early readers are often the ones who have not had access to books at home and not had a strong early listening to stories and hearing stories experience. So yes, talking about stories and using books with children is really important. I don't think there's quite such a rush to actually get them to read them themselves in the very early years, but of course lots of children are read ready, so you know, if you can get them straight onto reading books, then fantastic. But yes, I think it's more about understanding stories and sharing that experience before you go to books. But then we're talking about children starting at the age of 3 here.
Cool, thank you very much. And then we have another one around, so for you, Crispin. Can a 5-year-old child be assessed through quizzes?
Through quizzes? Well, the most of the assessment within the early years is about teacher discussion, because if you're using, you can use quizzes, but it's what format you deliver those to a child and how you record the answers. If you are getting children to write stuff down as part of an assessment, then what you're doing is assessing their ability to write stuff down partly, which is probably not what you want to be doing. So the reason that the early years resources use lots of discussion is that allows teachers to prompt children in the correct way, but also allows children the freedom to demonstrate their knowledge without having to then also demonstrate their skills of fine motor skills to hold a pen, or their letter work, writing and written ability. So I think in terms of assessment, what one needs to do is on a very on a day-to-day and lesson by lesson stance is to look at what children are doing, and that's all about what questions you can ask as a teacher and what things you're looking for. Then when you're doing a slightly more summative assessment at the end of a topic, then it's about the teacher drawing out the child's knowledge and talking to them about what they've learned within that topic, rather than having a quiz which may demonstrate their knowledge, but more at this age demonstrates their ability to understand how a quiz works and to write things down.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, further to that, I mean, I'd just reiterate what Crispin has said there. So the assessments that we provide as part of a reception course are designed to stimulate that teacher discussion. It is literally a rich, information-rich illustration, either with very little or no writing on it at all, and it's there for the teacher to talk about with the child. So it might be questions like, are there more pencils or rubbers, or how many of this, or what do you think so and so is thinking? And we help provide that structure and questions you might want to ask, and then guidance about what particular developmental points those questions are looking at. But the child itself shouldn't, I think at this age, they shouldn't really understand it's a formal high stakes test. It's really about a collaborative assessment.
Cool, thank you. And because you're talking, Kevin,
And the essential thing for assessment at this age, sorry, Stacey, to across you, the essential thing about assessment at this age is what do I do next? Where as children get older, as Kevin said, tests become more high stakes, and it's about what grade you can get in things. Particularly with the early years, it's about saying, if you can't do this at the moment, what do I as a teacher need to do next to ensure you can? Or if you struggle with this, how do I support you? Now, of course, if you're doing assessing something quite formal, like can you actually write the letters at then you would need the child to write those down to show that, but that would be done in the context of an activity, a fun activity that might be making the letters with string, painting the letters, cutting them out, those sorts of things to actually build it into an activity.
I think this brings us nicely on to sort of the next batch of kind of questions or areas that people are asking around. So I think this is more for Kevin. A few people have asked around the resources that are available online, so the Active Learn platform. Could you just kind of give us a brief overview of what is on there in terms of kind of curriculum documents and any additional resources for teachers?
Yeah, I mean, specifically on Active Learn for iPrimary reception, when it's added this month, you will have access to the full curriculum documents, the full schemes of work, providing the topic by topic overviews, the full lesson planning, which is the day-by-day teaching and the activities, and pupil worksheets and stimulus, so things like photos, illustrations, things like that. You'll have access to all of the tests as well. And then if you sign up to them, in addition, you can also access the Bug Club reading scheme and Power Maths reception as well. So Bug Club reading scheme, it's ebooks consisting of very nice looking kind of trade type books to look at with the children, to talk about for children, including notes for discussion and questions embedded within them. And then Power Maths Online. So there's front of class teaching, there's activities, there's games, there's songs, which work with our teaching and lesson planning and course. And then I believe you can see the learning journals online, but certainly for children this age, the learning journals are very much more of a physical, manipulable thing that you'd expect them to interact with. So the print version would be what we'd recommend for the learning journals.
Cool, thank you very much. We've had absolutely loads of questions, and if I can't get round to them in this session, then what I will do is I will kind of write responses, and they'll be posted as FAQs. So next to the webinar, so you'll be able to see all the questions that came in and then the answers to them as well. So we've got a few more. There's a lot around PD, so I will talk about that sort of towards the end of the session. So when is a suitable time to introduce syllables? Are 3 to 4 years old ready, especially when it's a second language? I think it's one more Crispin, Kevin, whichever.
So I mean, it very much depends on the individual child's language development. So the English planning within the course structures it. So it really, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't want to get the wrong answer, but I think it comes in kind of the second year of reception there. But the focusing is very much on when they're ready for it, which is a bit of a non-answer, I understand.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be different for different schools, for different pupils. I believe you certainly can do phonic learning. In fact, the recommendation is that you do it as early as you can, because children have a very good ear for sound, even though they might not know the technical jargon and the technical terms for what they're doing, but children are very good at identifying the shortest sound within things, about blending sounds. And as Kevin said, because you have such a good progressive curriculum with the early years curriculum here, that if you are working on a particular area and you think my children aren't ready for this, then you can look at the whole wealth of carousel activities that go around that and add in activities of your own and say, well, actually, I'm going to do a little more base work before I focus on this with my children. But I certainly believe you can do that phonetic learning, and that children can learn things like phonemes and how to blend and how to produce a smooth co-articulation when they're reading. It is that little bit harder as as a second language, of course, but that's why there is this strong progression within the curriculum, so you can move children on at the pace that they need to, and only you will know your children really well.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I'll quickly talk about PD because it seems to be a fairly hot topic in the questions. So someone asked whether we're planning to hold face-to-face training internationally. That is our usual method of delivery. However, given the circumstances and to keep staff and teachers safe, there will be no more face-to-face training for the remainder of this year. However, that doesn't mean that there is no training whatsoever. We will be doing training sessions like this via GoToWebinar, via Zoom, and you'll be able to request your PD that you would normally request through your IPLS school coordinator or with your regional Pearson representative. We can be flexible given that we can now deliver a lot of the training digitally. So we can really work with you, your schools and your teachers. And early years PD has just been finished by Crispin, so that will be available as a professional development module as soon as schools start to ask for it, and we can get them booked in. So for any schools that are introducing iPrimary early years or any of the other IPLS subjects, we will definitely be able to kind of either book in for this year digital training, and then going forward we will be assessing when it is safe to resume face-to-face, and you will be notified of this via your IPLS coordinators or the newsletters that we send out. So it's kind of a watch this space, but we are still here and we will still deliver training for you. So then a few more to finish on. And there's one question that I'm kind of leaving to last because I think it'll be a nice kind of ending question. We have had one around, have either of you, Crispin or Kevin, heard of Talk for Writing by Pi? And what are your thoughts on it?
Pi Corbett.
Mm-hmm.
Pi Corbett, yes. Talk for Writing, it's there is a set of resources that go around it, but the basic principle of Talk for Writing is a really, really simple one, and it was come up with by the author Pi Corbett, who basically said, if you can't talk about it, you can't write about it. So the idea with Talk for Writing is that before you do any writing, whether it's writing a story, a letter, a report, a journal, that you spend a decent amount of time talking about what you're going to write, about what could possibly happen within your writing, and that this promotes a much better standard of writing. The difficulty for particularly for young children is that when they come to a piece of extended writing, they are so focused on handwriting, spelling, letter shape, letter order, paragraphs, punctuation, that they actually forget about the content. So what you end up with is a well spelt, nicely written, well punctuated piece of writing that isn't actually very good, apart from the fact it's grammatically and correct and it's neat. The idea with Talk for Writing is that you have lots of discussion about the writing, before the children actually put pen to paper, and you build up lots of skills in terms of being able to talk about your writing, so that when children actually come to write the piece, they focus on the content of the writing, not particularly on the punctuation or the grammar or the spelling. Those are seen as slightly separate entities.
Oh, and we've actually had a few more questions pop in around writing. So there's a few on at what age would you recommend students writing to start writing?
Well, as early as they're ready. It depends what you mean by writing. If I'm talking about students making marks on paper, or confidently writing their name, writing numerals, being able to shape letters, then I would certainly be doing that with children in the early years. In terms of writing a story or an extended piece of writing, then that would come slightly later. But in terms of those early writing skills, then you want those started as early as you can. But again, you don't want to be too focused on the technical aspect of it, although being able to have fine motor skills that control a pen well are really important. But I would be looking at that as a skill, the fine motor skill of pen holding, and doing lots of activities to try and build those fine motor skills, as well as doing some basic mark making. Also, I think that you have to see writing as part of the practical curriculum that you do with children, that it becomes as well as becoming a technical aspect of what they're doing, that it also is as a fun and engaging, and that writing is offered as one of the choices among some free play activities.
Cool. Thank you. And then the final two questions. What year is appropriate for blending in phonics?
Well, I blend with my reception class, who are 4-year-olds. So, and we start with just those 6 phonemes that I gave you earlier. Sapin are the ones that we start with, and then the next would be we'd add in the letter M, the sound M, and we're trying to build the sounds, the pure sounds that build the most words, basically. And so I do blending with my reception class in their 2nd week of school, and by the 3rd week of school they can all take a book home. Now it is a fairly simple story, but they can blend and decode and read the first book in in fact, Book Club Phonics is what I've used. So they have the Alpha Blocks books, and they're reading their first book within 3-4 weeks of school, using those first 6 phonemes. So we do that smooth co-articulation right from the beginning.
Cool. Thank you very much. And then the final question, which I think is quite a nice one to end on. Will this iPrimary early years curriculum transition students well to year 2 and beyond? Year 1, sorry, and beyond.
Hopefully. That is specifically how it's been designed. So we took the start of year 1 as the end point for the curriculum. So we're trying to develop the skills and really the ability to learn. So you're learning how to learn very much at that age. Build it into the curriculum so you're ready to begin year 1.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I would add to that having been through in writing the PD, having been through lots and lots and lots of lesson plans for all the 3 different curriculum areas within the early years, that I've found there are just so many activities that are interesting and engaging and exciting for those early years pupils, and keep them very active and are easy to adapt for the teachers. But I can also see within all those activities that there is a genuine desire to make children ready for year 1, year 2, year 3, and so on. Also, I think it's really important to point out that these early years, it's very important to ensure that no child is being left behind and there aren't any gaps in learning. And I think the early years curriculum is really good at ensuring that there aren't gaps in students' learning, because any gaps they have at this point in their learning will affect them as they move up through the school, because there's very often very little time to go back over previous stuff in school. You know, time is always very tight.
Cool, thank you very much. So just a few kind of notes or points to make before we finish up. The recording of the webinar will be made available for everyone to obviously revisit at their own leisure, or to pass on to colleagues, senior leadership teams at their schools. So a newsletter with the links will go around shortly, and it will be made available on the International Community Schools blog, with FAQs of questions that we couldn't get round to answering today. So that will be made available to anyone that missed it or anyone that joined slightly later on. With that being said, thank you very much, Crispin and Kevin, for your time this morning. I hope it's been useful for everyone else. It's certainly been useful for me. If you have any other questions, please do get in contact with your local Pearson representative, and they'll be able to either answer the question for you or ensure that someone will be able to answer your question for you. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Crispin and Kevin. I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for the excellent questions that people sent through.
Yes, thank you everyone for signing in.